Ian McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. This week, a little unusual for me, I've had the pleasure of sitting on the Government Admin Select Committee, and now I've got the privilege of speaking on a bill that's going to the Government Admin Select Committee. I must be, as the whip says, moving up in the world. I've been promoted. But anyway, during the budget debate on the Border Processing Arrivals and Departures Levy, we learnt how many people were coming and going from New Zealand now, some 5.2 million per year. And of this, about 2.5 million of them are New Zealanders. So clearly those 2.5 million need to have a New Zealand passport. Shows the very high demand for New Zealand passports, and in fact we know that 77% I think of all New Zealanders have a New Zealand passport. Interestingly, passports aren't always used for travel, and most electorate MPs will note that through their electorate offices they get a lot of people coming in complaining about the fact that they've got to find some form of ID. And if they don't have a driver's licence or indeed a firearms licence or something like that, then a passport's often the only form of ID they can effectively use. So there are people who need to or do have a passport but never use it for travel. And so passports are a broader thing than just for being used just for travel. So just to go into the background of this bill, Mr Speaker, the terrorism acts of 2002, in my view, were good reason for the government of the day to well, we've clearly had a lot of discussion on sheep passports this week, and it proved my point, actually. Well, you're clearly on my side on that. Mr Speaker, I've been distracted.
I am having trouble with the relevance.
The reason we reduced the terms of those passports was, of course, for security reasons, around identity security, around the ability to track changes in behaviour of people from time to time. And new technologies now given the government the opportunity to, and the confidence, I guess, to extend the period of passport eligibility to 10 years, which, as the previous speakers have noted, will make a difference to the cost of it and certainly make a difference to the amount of hassle one has getting a passport. And in fact, I, like one of the previous speakers, have had to get 3 passports in the last 5 years because I inadvertently dumped one of my passports as it came in the post from the passport office. So the online passport system wasn't exactly clever. But Mr Speaker, surprising as it may seem, I think that this is a government that cares, that listens to New Zealanders and reacts appropriately. And whilst we may feel that this government or governments are slow to react, I think we also need to realise that governments are creating legislation and law for the long term. And I think it's pretty essential that something as important as a passport gives us the opportunity to be sure that we're on very solid ground before we, I guess, change law around it, find ways of issuing it. And as many people have said, a passport, it's a privilege to hold a passport for a start, and this new legislation will make it easier, I guess, for authorities to remove a passport. They won't have to have it in hand. It's merely done by a click of the button on a computer or phone. And so it will be easier to get a passport, it will be easier to take a passport away. And I think the whole process will be improved by the introduction of the Passports Amendment Bill number 2. So, Mr Speaker, that's my short contribution to this bill, and I wish it all the best as it goes into the Select Committee process.
There's a 5-minute call from the Green Party. I call Mojo Mathis.
I'd like to take a call on the passport